Hello, Ian.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Great, thank you. Sorry, I'm not
So,
there with you in person. That's how.
next year we'll make it happen. So, COVID and everything, it's crazy these
Yeah.
days. Everybody, wants to meet you and they're excited to meet you. And, you're one of my favorite people. Only the fact that we've actually only met once in person, maybe twice in person. But I remember it was in a coffee shop down the street from LVMH's headquarters, right?
Yep.
And I think I was asking you advice on life about what to do in between projects and everything. And we built a fun relationship between that and me probably begging for your advice on what to do next. So I appreciate you dealing with my nagging, I guess.
I don't know, it's always been a pleasure, really. Totally my pleasure.
So again, thank you for joining us. How does a kid from Goshen, Indiana, reach the top of the heights in music, fashion, and now the crypto industry? I mean, that's kind of deadpanning that question, but really, how does it happen? Because I read the Wired article that I love, that profile on you from years back, which is just fascinating. But really, how does it happen? You're in Paris, you're from America and changing industries, from music to fashion to now crypto.
It's a great question. I can't say I know the answer, but it's something that I think about too, because I do feel really lucky. I think, part of it is timing. There's a photo that my mom sent to my daughter recently, which is a picture of me, 8 years old, big brown COS headphones, sitting at an Apple II,
Yep.
writing basic code. There's music posters above me. And in the photo, you can actually see my component stereo. I was like an 8-year-old who had, a turntable and an
Yeah,
amp.
this super.
Yeah, I had, and there's also like a Yoda puppet with wearing 3D glasses my girlfriend looked at it and she said, it's all there. It's all like, 8 years old. But I think that, there is I think that, so I think that's it. I think I am who I am and I'm lucky to be in the world that I'm in. I think that even when you look at LVMH, which is a world that I knew nothing about coming into it, but I'm a skateboarder from Indiana. And then, look at what's happened since I've been there. Look at, where Virgil Abloh is a skateboarder from Rockford, Illinois, not too far from where I grew up. Matthew Williams is a skateboarder from Pismo Beach, California. And now you've got Nigo at Kenzo. I actually said this to Ben, I don't know, a week and a half ago. I said, you guys are coming more my direction than the other way around. Right? You guys are getting, more computers, more skateboarding, more music. I literally went from talking to Kanye at Apple to talking to Kanye at LVMH. So there's some common thread here. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I do think that there are, definitely some underlying pieces. I think, for me, actually, I think one that might be relevant to the people in the room is, for me, I grew up outside of culture. I know nothing about sports. I didn't like what was on television. I didn't like what was on MTV. I didn't like what was on the radio. And so I grew up in a world where mass media didn't serve me. So we found other means. We found, first, cable and then VHS and ultimately the internet. I met people that liked the same music as me for the first time in my life in 1990 and 1991 on the internet. And so I think that when you're used to that kind of alternative distribution, the internet makes immediate sense. I mean, I always said the internet made immediate sense to anybody who had ever made a fanzine with a Sharpie and a photocopier, right? Because the moment you saw the internet, you went, yes.
How long was it from you seeing it to the reality happening?
Well, for me, it was very quick because I started a computer science degree I started college in 1990. I really started a computer science degree in 1991. But then my first job was working at the music library, and my first job at the music library was to build what really became the first search and stream system that was a lot like Spotify. And then the first, job I had that wasn't washing dishes was actually as a jazz radio announcer in the late 80s. But the first, really the first startup I started was building websites for rock stars. And so that was, early 94. I remember I met the Beastie Boys on Lollapalooza in 94. So some point before that, I had started building websites for money for people in the music business from my student housing apartment, family housing, student dwelling in Bloomington, Indiana, because I had a kid when I was 17 as well. So I had that part of, I had a mouth to feed.
Understood. So I guess I was referencing for that question is we look at the points of your career that are fascinating is that they hit these inflection points, right? Maybe for music, it had to take a little bit longer, but it happened, right? You hit that inflection point from top spin to Beats, and were able to become a part of Apple when it was at its peak, music streaming, right? Arguably, it's continuing to grow, but as soon as at its peak, I almost feel like you were ready to make a change and move to the world of fashion. And when it's at its peak of culture, right, through Instagram, et cetera, e-commerce taking over. And now, I don't want to say you're at your peak with crypto and NFT particularly. It actually seems a little bit earlier. Is that similar more to the decision of the music streaming side, or am I mischaracterizing it all? I'm saying you live in the future, right? And you also live in the now of something being real. So
I think the best way, it's quite personal, right? I've never really, well, first of all, this might seem silly, but I've never really been opportunistic, actually. I've never been ambitious. I've never been that thoughtful about my career. Let me put it that way. There are other people who are more thoughtful about my career than me. People like Dave Goldberg at Yahoo, who, I remember very distinctly him caring more about my career than I did. And I thank him for that. He really did things for me that I just wouldn't have even known how to do. But for me, it was much. So the whole story is much more personal, but in a nutshell, look, first of all, I was living in the future. When I was living in that family housing in Indiana in the early 90s, I had 2 live Ethernet ports in the apartment because that's what they did at IU. For some reason, there was this guy named Alan Robel who changed the world for everybody. I had 2 live, they were campus internet connections in my apartment in 1993. And, when you're living in the future, it's cheating. You can see the future. Right. You don't have to be very smart to see the future when you're living in it. And that's where I was. So to me, the rest of the 90s was just watching everyone else catch up to what I could see was coming from 1994. And then, I was on this digital music path. It was great. I loved music. So it was so easy. I was passionate about music and passionate about art. So it was really easy for me to do. And so we went from Winamp to Yahoo Music to Beats Music to Apple Music quite naturally. But my friend Mark Geiger used to say, when people would talk about Spotify in 2012, and he would say the game hasn't even started yet. Until Apple is on the field, we're still in the locker room. The game hasn't even started. And it always stuck with me. And then when we went to Apple and we're building Apple Music, I was like, I think the game's about to start, and I was excited. But long story short, when Tim Cook walked out on stage and with We Love Music behind him and was introducing Apple Music, I was so proud. At the same time, I thought about Mark's words. Okay, the game just started. And I really thought, I think for me, this is the finish line. Because I got to watch music go from 0% digital distribution to 99% digital distribution. And that's exciting. But I thought, well, now what? Now it's an oligopoly. Do I really want to sit here at Apple? And there were other reasons I didn't really want to sit there at Apple. Just personal reasons in terms of the way that it was kind of structured at Apple Music. But I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought maybe I would, and I had golden handcuffs, so I thought maybe I'd sit there until January and then, knock on Eddie Q's door and just say, can I go work on health? I don't know. And so, but I got this call from LVMH, and which as I said earlier, I didn't really know anything about, but I'm a quick study. And what I saw in that was a universe that's 3% digital. And I saw a universe where that just felt like it's moving in the right direction culturally. And what I mean by that is, like I said earlier, I think we're moving from mass markets to niche markets. And I think we're moving from a world where marketing is hyper efficient to a world where quality is hyper efficient. And I looked at LVMH as a massive niches that are focused on quality. And anyone who's heard me talk in the last 5 years has heard me say exactly these words before, but it's really true. And I think that I was right on this point. When I look at it, I actually think, I'll go further at this point. And I think that democracy is fundamentally challenged because we're leaving an era of nation states and we're entering an era, a fully tribal era. And that's what's going on. And that's what's represented in crypto. It does not make sense to have these kind of democracies that are set by geographic borders in a world where we are supposed to elect someone who represents the ideals of these people inside of this geographic border, when there is not a person who represents the ideals of the people inside of this geographic border. And Mark Zuckerberg can snap his fingers and find 1,000 people who you share ideals with. These two things no longer work. So, for me, that decision to go to LVMH was just kind of part of my worldview. One, not an industry that's not yet digitized, and one that as it gets digitized is going to grow. Like, that was obvious to me. So it was a great time for me, and I really loved it. And I maintain a relationship with LVMH now. I'm still consulting for LVMH. And I joined the board of Dr. Martens in January, which I love and is super fun. And I'm still a board observer at list.com, LYST. But my day job is at Ledger. Now, that story is actually very personal, because what happened right when I moved here to Paris, a friend, Toby Koppel, who I used to work with at Yahoo, said, "Hey, you should meet Pascal Gauthier. He worked at Yahoo too." Okay, but when I met Pascal, I was just like,
why not?
Well, you moved to a new city. You want to meet new people.
You want to meet people. Exactly. Yeah.
I met, a lot of people that I wasn't going to become friends with. But when I met Pascal, I was like, wait a minute, this guy is really different. And he really is. I mean, I'll take credit for being able to, in 10 minutes, go, wait a minute, there's something about this guy. But we became friends, and our families became friends. And he was the first seed investor in this little crypto company 6 years ago called Ledger. And, as the business went through its ups and downs, as crypto went through its ups and downs, the business grew. He became a board member, the president, and then a couple of years ago, the CEO. And he said, "Ian, this company is going to go. Where this company is going to scale. I think I would love to have your help here." So we talked about that, but I really got to ask all the dumb questions 5 years ago. What are you talking about? Like, explain it to me again. Why do we need?
We had a conversation about it when we were in the coffee shop in 2019 during the summer there. You were asking me tell me about the NFT stuff, the gaming or whatever. And I was like, and you were, I think, incredibly curious in understanding that. And I think that allows.
But I was also very skeptical of blockchain everything.
Oh yeah, you were totally skeptical. You're like, I don't get it.
To me, I saw the sort of technical side of it, just like what I saw with P2P in 1999, 2000, right? If you put P2P in your business plan in 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005. I mean, ask Daniel Ek, ask Travis Kalanick. If you put P2P in your business plan in those days, then you got funded. But consumers didn't care about
whatever, music, Skype, Napster.
People in the end, though, consumers didn't care about the underlying technology. And I would argue it's the same with blockchain. You need to have these applications on top of the technology that really drive it. But the reality is that digital scarcity is an incredible invention, and we'll have many, many, many use cases. I just listened to the conversation about NFTs before, and I completely agree. I think when Raoul Paul says I believe NFTs are bigger than DeFi, I completely agree, because DeFi disrupts one industry, banking. NFTs disrupt every industry, right? The little pass sanitaire things that we have here in Paris to show that I don't have COVID, that technically are a joke. My driver's license technically is a joke. And NFTs will replace that over the next 10 to 20 years. But that's how big it is.
So okay. Now we're getting this conversation of NFTs, of Ledger.
And you've already talked about them a lot today. So I'm sensitive to,
But don't be too sensitive, because the whole theme of the Techtalia 2021 is a new way forward, right? So I think a lot. I mean, we're launching Pizza on Chain NFT in like 2 days, and I just went through a crash course of really expensive gas fees. how do we make it easier for people to mint or, experience it? We've got a broad, diverse group here, right? From all different countries, but also all different age ranges, like 19 to 84. How do we, it was complicated to make the NFT, I will say. You're able to do it because of my, obviously my network and everything. I knew all the right people to call, but I'm thinking if I was, said sustainable fashion brand that's not LVMH, but wants to create a permanence on chain with like a beautiful shoe, or not even a shoe, just a completely new digital creation. How do we make it easier? That was my frustration. I literally was frustrated. I was like, I know the marketing, I know this, I know the people, but it was still, the MetaMask, this, that. Is that complexity built in, or do you think that's going to change? Is that,
I'd say two different things here. I mean, the first thing that you have to remember is it's 1998 right now, right? And I'm going to sit here and tell you, I think this internet thing is going to be big, right? And I'm not wrong, but there's a crash coming in 2000, right? Yep. And the iPhone doesn't come until 2008, right? And a lot of things that we streaming music, for example, just I think the analogy really works. Rhapsody started in 2000. We didn't get Spotify until I can't quite remember the year, 2009,
2009, 2010. And then in the States,
exactly. But this is my point. Like they were, Rhapsody was correct in 2000. They had the right idea, but it still took a long time. Now, I think that this is fundamentally different. And you referenced this in your last talk. I think the big difference too is, there really is different. What we had before was kind of a freedom of information. And now we're getting a revolution of value. And so that'll have different dynamics. Also, we already have 4.5 billion smartphones on the planet. So that's fundamentally different as well. In 1998, we were directionally correct, but we had to get like the proliferation of networks. And I always say, I remember someone from AT&T in 2002 telling me that we would never be able to do video over the internet. Right. So you just have to remember that there were people in 1998 with 56K modems. You would have said this internet thing doesn't work. It just fundamentally doesn't work. Right. Yeah. And I think if you if you enter the NFT space today, you might have a very similar idea. You would go, well, nice idea, but God damn, this doesn't work. Look at NFT space generally. We're in the business of hardware security, and absolutely nobody using OpenSea is doing it securely. They're either using a software-only wallet or they're using a hardware wallet with a software wallet, and they're blind signing, meaning they're signing things they can't see. Because until we get OpenSea inside of Ledger Live, you won't be able to clear sign. So that hasn't stopped OpenSea from having 72,000% year-over-year growth. But to your point, the user experience is fundamentally broken, and that's why
And to interrupt, OpenSea is 254,000 active accounts, something like that. There's not, or active traders. It's some like small number where very, very there's small. All this. So, to the point with Ledger, security is incredibly important in crypto and NFTs and everything. I feel like it's so early, but it's also moving so quickly. What is your view of how Ledger fits in? I'm actually curious about that. I wrote that down as a question.
Yeah. For those who don't know, so Ledger makes a hardware wallet that secures your keys. And the way to think about this is, when you create a hardware wallet anywhere, that could be, with MetaMask, it could be even when you're on Coinbase, they have a version of this. All crypto wallets have this key pair. So they have a public key and a private key. And the way to think about that is your public key is like your mailbox address, so anyone can send to you. And your private key is like your mailbox key. So only you can have that key to open. But in this case, you use your private key to sign transactions. So, the way to think about this is your value is safe out there on the blockchain. This is how blockchains work. So, the transactions all happen in public. People can see that wallet address owns that value. That's like crystal clear and transparent, but you have that wallet address, and only with your private key can you transfer that value, right? So that means the point at which you are insecure is the point of signing. So either someone stole your keys and they're signing and saying and sending your value from your wallet address to their wallet address. That's one way. Or at the time of signing, you think you're doing something and you're really doing something else. And both of those things are how people lose their value. People either steal your keys by taking your seed phrase or your 24 words, or they just hack into your account, like they would hack into your Gmail, except they hack into your Coinbase account. Or at the time you're doing a transaction, they like slip another transaction in there and you don't see it. Like that's basically it. So you can think about that in terms of security. So what Ledger does is we make a hardware device. Let me just say one more thing. Your computer and your phone are untrustable, right? And we know this. And if what I would encourage everyone to do, please order the book. This is how they tell me the world will end. It was written by the New York Times reporter who covers cybersecurity. It's a very accessible book about kind of the history of cybersecurity up to this moment, including the U.S. government versus the Iranian nuclear program, including Russia versus Facebook, et cetera, all of these things that you've heard about in the news, but it ties them together very nicely. And what you'll walk away going, oh yeah, I shouldn't have private things on my phone. Period. We could ask, Jeff Bezos or, other people who have perished, about that, but we know that at this point, right? Because our Web 2 devices do so much. That's what makes them amazing. But that also inserts tons of risk, right? So what you have with a hardware wallet like Ledger is a very simple device. It has secure chip, secure memory that's directly attached to the buttons, a secure screen. And so when you are signing a digital transaction, you know that you can trust what is happening at that moment. And your keys are never exposed to the internet. So that's fundamentally what we do. What I realized because of my friendship with Pascal a few years ago, when I didn't understand, and I was like, really the light bulb went off for me, is I realized, wait a minute, to believe in Ledger, I don't need to believe in any particular thing about cryptocurrency. I don't need to believe in the Bitcoin narrative. I don't have to believe in the Ethereum narrative. I don't have to believe in NFTs. I don't have to believe in stable coins. I only have to believe that there will be digital value. And you just need to look at China to know that will be true. And then I need to believe that security will be a key issue, right? So again, you can look at, and I hesitate to even mention it, but just go read the book. I don't want to talk about people who were murdered because of, because certain governments hacked into their phones, right? But security, digital assets will exist. Security will be an issue. That's where Ledger comes in. So Ledger we have two things. I run the consumer side of the business. So we sell a device called the Ledger Nano, and we have a piece of software that connects you to that universe. And then we also have an enterprise division. So if you are, let's say that you're a fashion brand and you will have digital assets, the keys to those digital assets can't live with like your most trustworthy IT guy, right? Not to state the obvious, but this is not only about hardware security, it's also about governance, right? If you have what is effectively a treasury, then, okay, this might require 3 signatures for, this transfer to happen. Like, you have to remember that what we have, the new invention here is critical digital assets. We have digital assets that we can lose.
They're worth something. They're worth value if you lose them.
And if you lose them, you lose them. It's not like you call the bank and ask them to reverse the charge.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. The guys with the wallets that have 300 million in crypto, it's like Silicon Valley. There's that episode where Russ Hanneman is digging through the garbage dumps in San Francisco to find his $300 million worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, my message would be the moment that, what you have in your wallet is worth more than the price of a hardware wallet, which is about $60, then you should invest in a hardware wallet. Right. So, it's pretty straightforward.
Got it. I know we don't have a ton of time left because we're getting to the Vatican shortly. I have a couple of fast questions I want to ask, and then I'll probably end with one or two pretty esoteric questions as well. Awesome. So fast questions. Tell us one story from your career about the time you failed, succeeded, like a sentence or two.
The time that I failed?
Failed or succeeded, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe one of each could be fun.
Sure.
But
I mean, I think for me, like there have been a number of failures. I mean, with Grand Royal, we went bankrupt, but probably for me, the one that was the biggest lesson was with Topspin. So Topspin was a company to do direct to consumer marketing and sales. And really, I think in many ways, Bandcamp has built what I was trying to build ideologically at Topspin, but they took a very different approach than we took. I won't bore you with the story. I could write a book about it, but main point there is, the market just wasn't as big as we thought it would be. So we had a very idealistic vision. Also, in some ways we tried to boil the ocean. I can see in retrospect that we had a very sophisticated e-commerce platform that would have been a nice asset for us to deliver, but I wanted to fix the music business. That was a little too ambitious of a goal. I'm not sure it was worth saving, to be honest with you. But it was, I think that was just kind of just a misjudgment in mission. We thought it was more build it and then they will come than it was. So I think the lesson there was to really bite off more manageable chunks. I'm trying to learn that lesson with what we're doing now. But let's stop there. You said it was a fast question. Success, yeah. I think the best success is Winamp, which is here, 4 people, no debt, no equity, AOL, $100 million, May of 1999, true internet Cinderella story, in my view, and very idealistic and very much a family to this day.
Awesome. $1 million NFTs, fad or here to stay? And $1 million art NFTs.
No, I would say $1 million NFTs. Look, $1 million NFTs will be with us for the rest of humanity. I think that the sort of the froth around prices, is something that won't sustain. I think a lot of this is because it's new, because people have a lot of value in Ethereum that was worth less 5 years ago, so you've got a lot of trading going on, and maybe the trading, some of it will certainly continue, but I think that NFTs are so much more than this kind of speculative froth. To me, you could look at this as kind of .com gold rush. You've got hype that's ahead of reality. The excitement is real, and it's for the right reasons. Right. There were people who were trying to do, to your door delivery in an hour, in 1998 and 99. There were people that were trying to do long form content, on the internet in 1999, speaking specifically about digital entertainment network, which became like a total joke. They were right. They were wrong about the timing, but they didn't have the wrong idea. So I think in this case too, the hype is ahead of the reality, and that will even itself out over time. But I think that what I would say is that NFTs are just so much bigger than that. What's really going to happen is that, every single thing you buy is going to come with a digital proof of purchase. And there's so much that you're going to do with that. I'm going to be able to buy a pair of Doc Martens boots and then wear those boots in Fortnite. That's what's going to happen here. This is not about like speculating on, 4,000 Doc Martens NFTs. That's not the use case.
Dior Supreme.
Oh man. Well, I mean, you just ask my personal taste. I think, look, again, I come from skateboarding. So, I think that, it takes a very long time to build a brand like Dior, and, that's very defensible. But I think that, look, and I think that a brand like Supreme can continue to grow organically as well. I think that certainly the way that, I think that, if you look with the model, brands are coming towards Supreme's model more than the other way around.
Got it. Being a musico, Scott Walker, David Bowie, Lou Reed, or Minor Threat?
Oh man, all of the above. Scott Walker is Scott 1, Scott 2, Scott 3, Scott 4, amazing. Like even the Walker Brothers stuff, incredible. David Bowie, every single thing from I would say 71 to 80, genius. The Man Who Sold the World, Hunky Dory, Pinups, Diamond Dogs, obviously Ziggy Stardust, Young Americans. I could get rid of David Live. I don't need it.
Yeah.
But I'll take Low. I'll take Low, Heroes, Lodgers, Scary Monsters. I don't know what I left out of there, but that, I mean, that run from 71,
Just
I'm
incredible.
not a big fan of the one with Rick Wakeman, the one with like Major Tom on it, but all the way up to Scary Monster is just, unparalleled. Hold on, and you said Lou Reed. I mean, come on, like everything, everything Velvet Underground and Lou Reed. I'll give you, if people are interested, there's a great and kind of unknown Lou Reed record called, I think it's called A Perfect Night, but it was recorded at, it was Laurie Anderson did All Tomorrow's Parties, and she curated All Tomorrow's Parties, and Lou Reed and Laurie Anderson were a couple. Lou played the show for Laurie. It's recorded. It's incredible. It's just sort of like a great, it's a great run through of a whole bunch of his stuff. And then Minor Threat, I just had, I mean, actually I feel compelled to show the audience this. So I just had my friend Glenn Friedman. He left our apartment today. Most of these are Glenn's photos, not all, but most. And there's Glenn's classic picture of Minor Threat right next to the Beastie Boys on my wall. So I don't know. I mean, so obviously that means something to me as well. So that was a good list and a very difficult choice you gave me.
Awesome. Last question, and we'll let you go. Favorite thing about Italy, and when will we see you in Italy?
Well, so when I met my girlfriend a few years ago, one of the first things she said to me is, the great thing about Paris, it's close to Italy. So we actually, we actually just this summer put an offer in on some land in Italy, and I think I'll be there a lot.
Well, wonderful. We're looking forward to having you next year as well, and being a part of the community. And thank you so much, Ian, for the time.
No, really, thank you for having me. I'm so sorry that I'm not there in person, man. I really wish I was there.
Thank you so much. Talk soon.
Yeah, bye everybody. Have a great time at the Vatican. Say what's up to the Pope.